about tea, the myths, the science, and the art. We've got with us Susmita Das Gupta, who's a tea artist. So first of all, I was very curious about the name tea artist, and we'll get into that, what exactly is a tea artist. In this session, of course, we're going to talk about tea, the myths and the facts. And India, tea is the biggest part of our mythology. Let's see if you can identify some tea myths and facts in this upcoming tea talk. She is a tea artist. She's been teaching the art of making and drinking fine tea. It is her mission to make Indian specialty tea reach global audiences by making tea and tea drinking activity fun and engaging. As a tea artist and founder of Tea with Susmita, she has been conducting tea appreciation, pairing, and tea training programs for the last 5 years across India. She's the organizer of a tea festival which was held at JW Marriott in Bangalore. She's been appointed the official tea artist and tea blogger for Paris-based AVPA's Tea of the World contest and was the only invited Indian speaker at the Nomad Tea Festival in Europe. So with that, I welcome Susmita. Welcome. And I see that you've got your cup of tea.
Always. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jukriti.
So Chetwal says it's Darjeeling and Sudeshna says she cannot hear. Please log back in again and please let me know if others cannot hear us. Like to know that the audio is working for everyone. Yes, they can. All right. So as we begin, of course, I'm going to have to ask you, as I've asked the audience, which is your favorite tea?
My favorite tea is Darjeeling Second Flush Muscatel. And I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking, what is a second flush and what is Muscatel? So I will talk about that, but that's my favorite tea, Darjeeling Second Flush Muscatel.
Very good. I think I'm still stuck at the Tata tea gold. So that is my favorite tea. So I think I have to graduate quite a bit. So what got you interested in this topic? And you've organized the tea festival. You do a lot of tastings at many hotels. And what's a tea artist? I've thrown like a huge bunch of questions in there.
As you were mentioning, a tea artist, I coined that term for myself because there are only few terms in the tea fraternity that one could call based on the kind of experience that they have, like these tea masters and tea sommeliers. But I neither a tea sommelier nor a tea master, so I thought that I should have a name for myself, a title or something which people would understand, because tea is an art, and my mission is to teach the art of making and drinking good tea. Therefore, I'm a tea artist. So it's because I'm teaching the art of it, I thought I could I know it's little, I have to still live up to that title. I'm working on that, but that's the whole idea.
And you've been doing this now for 5 years. I mean, pretty prestigious at the JW Marriott and at other places also.
Yes. JW Marriott happened in 2016. That was unfortunately, though we are one of the largest, we're the second largest producer of tea, and we produce some of the finest teas in the world. There has never been a single activity which involves the tea drinkers of the country. So there has never been a tea festival which brings all the brands, all the good brands together in one place, and they talk to the consumers, the tea drinkers. So I thought, it could be a good idea to do that. It was very successful. JW Marriott was our partner. There are all the major tea brands were there, from Nestle and Goodreek and everybody, Tata's and everybody. So Bangalore, we were thinking Bangalore is a coffee drinking place. How would it go? But we were quite surprised by the response that we got.
Fantastic. So there's so many new brands. How does one know how to choose? Because this is so confusing these days. And tea, like what you've said, has now become very sophisticated. It's also become very shishi, I would say, to a certain extent.
Well, the first thing, you do not choose a tea by brand. So when during the course of the talk that I will have with all of you, I think I will also explain that how do you select a good tea and what is a good tea? Because first we have to understand what is a good tea. So that is very important. Once we know the good tea, what makes it a good tea, then we know how to source it. But the thumb rule is that we do not buy tea by brand. Like we do not buy wine by brand. the wine is bought by the name of the grape. Similarly, tea is bought by the name of the garden. So I'll tell you how we do that.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us, what is the most often asked question that you get? I'm sure because you do so many talks, there must be one question that constantly you get from the audience.
More than question, I see a lot of people who are very surprised. I get exclamatory remarks, which are like, uh, we didn't know that, very vividly. And I will never forget this comment which was made to me during, when I was beginning one of the program. And one gentleman said that, why should I sit here for 90 minutes and listen to this for a drink, which I take every morning to go to the loo? So that was a question that I had received, and I thought that was a very important question, because a lot of people does not really understand what tea is, and that's why that question came. So all I could tell him is that, since you already paid for it and you came, I'm sure you're interested. So why don't you sit through that and tell me after 190 minutes, is that a drink that you drink in the morning to go to the loo?
So
So
what was his response after the 90 minutes? You've got us curious now.
I think after 90 minutes, I'll give you an example, or maybe a simile. People, if you buy a good bottle of scotch, you like to show that bottle and put it in your, in your living room for everybody to see, right? I have this bottle of scotch. So I think after 90 minutes, some of the teas that he drank and some of the tea that he, learned how to appreciate, he I'm sure he bought some of them and put it in his living room to show that this is the tea that I drink now.
Wow. So let's get started. Over to you, Susmita.
Thank you so much. So I have uh, there are quite a few, 37 participants. Awesome. So I'll make this little interactive. So please go ahead, and I won't be able to read the comments. So I would request, Shukriti, one of you guys, to do that.
I'll do
So
that. Not a problem.
yeah. So what I will do is I will start with the some questions. I will ask whether this is a fact or a myth, and let's see how people respond. And in that particular statement only, we will be able to learn a lot about tea. Those are the myths part. Then I have a little bit of a science part of the tea, and then I'm ending it with the art part of the tea, which is the appreciation part of the tea, so that you have complete, at least the understanding of what good tea is all about and how do you
We can
appreciate it.
talk in polite society about tea.
Yes, you will learn some of the lingos that people use, you know so if anybody has done wine tasting or wine appreciation, tea appreciation is very similar to that. But there's a difference between wine tasting and wine appreciation. Similarly, there's a difference between tea tasting and tea appreciation. So I will get into that. So let me just start with sharing it with you. Yes, can everybody please see this?
Yes, we
Could share.
can.
Okay, so we'll start with some asking some. I'll show you some statement, and you can tell me whether this is a fact or a myth. Let's see how well you know your tea. What we know today as tea was known as somras in the ancient world or in ancient India. Is it a fact or a myth?
I thought Somras was more like wine. So everybody's saying myth, myth, myth. Rajani is saying fact.
Okay.
Zainab is saying myth. Manju is saying myth. Silpa is saying myth. Nilesh is saying no. That's what I thought. Somras was wine.
So let me tell you what somras is. Somras is a nectar which actually helps. They believe that it helps in enhancing your youth and keeping you alive for a long time. That's what somras is. Now, in fact, there is a research done by a British uh, scientist, and he calls somras the tea of the ancient world, of the I will show you his work, and this is a fact. This is not a myth.
Okay.
All right. Children should not be drinking tea. Fact or myth?
I think we all think this is a fact because of the caffeine. That's what I think. And Krishna says fact, Karishma says fact, Dipti says myth, Rajni says myth, Shilpa says myth, Sudeshna says myth, Zainab says fact, Chitra says myth, Vibha says fact, Ratna fact, Monica says sometimes. Monica, you can't be in the middle. Nilesh says myth, Vandana says fact.
This is a fact. This is actually a myth. Children can very well drink tea. This is a myth. Children should not be drinking tea is a myth. Children can very well drink tea. And in fact, the kind of tea that children should drink, that also I will tell you later. But definitely they can drink tea. There is absolutely no harm in that. And the amount of caffeine that you were concerned about is absolutely negligible. And in fact, little bit of caffeine is required because like you need to eat little bit of carbohydrate to keep you energy. You need caffeine also to keep you energy. So that caffeine is, if you compare between coffee or a bottle of Coke, Pepsi, that caffeine is absolutely negligible.
So, Dilip, yes, absolutely a poll would be interesting, but unfortunately, we have to set up the poll ahead of time. We would not be able to set it up right now, but definitely we'll do so for the next ones.
Tea was first discovered in China. Fact or myth?
Fact. Nita says fact. Zainab says myth. He says,
I would like to know why is she calling it a myth? Whoever is calling it a myth.
one second, Dipti, I'm going to unmute her and we can see if she is. Dipti, go ahead. Uh, Dipti, can you? Go.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I
Yes.
think tea was first discovered in India, as much as I know. So that's the reason I said it's a myth.
And Zainab is also saying it's a myth. I'm going to ask her to unmute also.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Zainab, we can.
I believe that Turkey or the Turkish people have discovered tea, not China.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Okay, so this is a myth. This is not a fact, but unfortunately, tea was not discovered in India also. Tea was discovered in a region which is now part of China, India, and Burma. So it was all discovered at the same time. It was not really discovered. It was a group of people who were traveling. They actually were people who migrated from one place to another. So they started from Burma, went to China, came to India, again went back to Burma. So these people were carrying this tea leaf with them, and wherever they went, they planted this. So it actually happened almost at the same time in this region. So tea was not discovered in China. It came in all these three regions, in this region covering these three countries.
So where did it come from? Where did they bring it from? Now you've got me curious.
So so this is a actually a plant that grows in this part of the world. So this part includes southwest China, which is the Yunnan region, the north part of Assam, and the eastern part of Burma. Okay, so this plant grows here by itself, but nobody knew that how it should be taken, whether it should be brewed or whether it should be made into vegetables, what is the process, they didn't know. The first person who used that plant for any kind of use, whether it is as a beverage or as a vegetable or etc., are these people are called the Singpo people. So these people were traveling from each this was their tradition. They used to eat this tea, actually these tea leaves originally, and slowly they started also discovering it by how to brew that. So they started off eating it as like exactly like spinach. They used to eat it with as a vegetable, and slowly it became a beverage.
Interesting.
Tea was once an anti-national drink in India. Myth or a fact?
I think that's truth. We have silence on this one. I think everybody's thinking, was it anti-national to drink the tea? So Deshna says a myth, Zainab says myth. I think because of the Britishers, I think that's why it was anti-national. Would love to hear why others. Vima says no idea. Karishma says fact maybe because of British. Yeah, her and I are thinking the same way.
Yes, it was actually declared anti-national by Mahatma Gandhi because non-cooperation movement, and tea was a British product, and when tea was being produced in India, it was not meant for the local Indians. It was meant for the English people, the British people back home. So it was produced in Assam, Darjeeling, Nilgiris, Kangra, and it was all shipped to UK. So, but later on, they tried that the Indians also should drink because they wanted to make more money out of that. And at that time, because it was a British product, Mahatma Gandhi declared it as an anti-national drink. In fact, it is very interesting that tea was not a welcome drink. Like now, it is a welcome drink, right? You visit anybody's house, they will give you a cup of tea. It was not a welcome drink until late 1960s. It took quite a lot of time to become what it is today. If you drink tea, your skin will turn dark.
I think that's a myth. Because if the British would all be dark by now.
Yeah, yeah. This actually also started during the time when tea was called an anti-national, and Indians love for fair skin, so it was a way to make people not to drink tea, and it somehow got stuck to people. I know even now a lot of people think that if you drink tea you will become dark. So it's a complete myth. Okay, the British never learned how to prepare tea the right way. Myth or a fact?
Oh, wow. Okay. Fact, I'll say. So Deshna says myth, Dipti says myth. Shilpa says myth.
Interesting. Okay. This is a fact because 1 second, I will get shut off. Just give me a moment.
So till then, till Susmita comes back, want to know what is everybody's favorite tea till then. I think she's just plugging in her laptop. We have a silent crowd today. Lemongrass tea. Wow, very nice. Masala chai. I like chamomile. I like adrak tulsi honey tea. I do too. That's actually one of my favorite. Lemon honey tea, chamomile adrak chai. Nice. Masala chai. Why the street tea tastes good? Okay, this is a great question. Earl Grey black, typically British. Plain green tea, green tea. Wow, very nice. Blue pea tea. I've never heard about that. Please tell us more. Mint tea, Darjeeling, spearmint, adrak and gur chai. Very nice. We brew our tea and add a spoon of milk only, strong and maybe some Darjeeling flavor. Also, the labucha you get in Bengal, chamomile tea. Another second, just give us. Her laptop has shut down. She's just rebooting it. Sorry about that. Lemongrass. What's my favorite? My favorite, like I told you, is the Tata tea with the lemon and honey. I really like that. That's my favorite. Lemongrass, cinnamon, ginger, tulsi. I know blue pea tea. We're also very curious. Please do tell us. Sipping golden Darjeeling tea sitting on Darjeeling Mall Road. Wow, lovely. When you reboot, you need a cup of tea. That's so true. Ah, blue pea is a flower tea. Kawa. Yes, very nice.
Hello.
Hi, sorry about that.
Just got, I know something happened. Anyway, I'll just get into that right away.
So we were just finding out everybody's favorite teas till then.
Okay, Kawa, Bandana, and then Earl Grey's golden Darjeeling tea sitting in Darjeeling Mall Road. Oh, wow. Okay. Blue pea tea. Oh, I feel sorry for you. Whoever says blue pea. Okay, great. All right. Should we start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what happened, as you know, there's a story that the Chinese Emperor Shen Nong, he actually found the way how to drink the tea accidentally. So he learned how to brew the tea by putting the tea leaves into hot water and started drinking it. And that is actually the right way of drinking tea. And most of the tea those days were green tea that the Chinese people were making. While the British were the last person in Europe to start drinking tea, the first were the Dutch, then the Spaniards, then the French, and then the English people, got to drink tea. But they never really learned how to brew tea from China. They just loved the beverage so much, they made their own way of drinking tea. And therefore, in China, you see that they never put milk in their tea, while in the English way of drinking is they put milk in the tea. In fact, you will be shocked to know that when they were drinking green tea, they would put a lot of milk and a lot of sugar in the green tea when they started drinking, 300-400 years back. So they never really learned the proper way of drinking tea, but they made their own way of drinking tea by making teas, by creating teas which suits their palate. So that's what they did.
Very interesting.
Tea and chai are same, myth or fact?
I think no.
What do you all think? What is tea and what is chai? If they are not same.
Chitra says yes, please. Chitra says same. Sudeshna says fact. Zainab says fact. Dipti says yes.
Okay.
Alka says no.
Okay. 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 It will be very, very sad to hear that tea and chai are not same. It is actually the process of making that makes it different. Process of preparing it that makes it different. The tea leaves remain the same that you use as raw material, but when you brew the leaves, it becomes tea. When you cook it, it becomes chai. So when you cook it with your milk and masalas and sugar and everything, it is a chai. When you brew it right in the proper way, in hot water, at the correct timing, infuse it correctly. So that is when you get a tea. So in tea also you can put milk, but you are not cooking it. You are brewing it and then adding milk to it. So this is the difference between tea and chai.
So when we ask for tea, we should be very, very clear that whether we want tea or whether we want chai. Yes,
that's why in USA they have something called chai latte, which is oxymoron because chai means milk. So you cannot put latte. Latte is again milk, right? So you really cannot have milk, chai, milk. So it doesn't really make any sense. It's an oxymoron, but they have created something which actually means that tea with milk? Herbal tea is tea.
When you say herbal tea, okay.
Now that also, kind of, I'm asking you the question that what is herbal tea?
So if it doesn't use tea leaves, it's not, I feel it's
Yes.
not.
Yes, so herbal tea is anything where the tea leaves is not used. So a chamomile is a herbal tea. Everybody knows about chamomile. Somebody was mentioning about butterfly pea flower, the blue tea. That is also a herbal tea. Those are not considered tea in the strictest sense of the term. Loosely, people call it tea, but in the tea fraternity, they will be called tisane, and this will be called tea. So
We
herbal tea will be called a tisane, and this is a tea.
know
Herbal tea,
how we're on the dot. They are tisanes.
yes, yes.
But I think we think of anything that's brewed in water
Mm.
as tea.
No, that is not correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And what is kawa? Amita is asking then.
Kawa is a tea that is made with the green tea, and it has got saffron as one of the ingredients. So green tea is the main tea, and it has got saffron. It has got some other spices that grow in Kashmir. It's a tea that has originated in Kashmir.
So it is a tea.
It is, of course, a tea. It's a green tea with saffron. It actually was the drink of the kings of Kashmir. It was a royal drink. It was a royal beverage, not for the common people. But later on, now, of course, you go to Kashmir, you can drink it anytime, anywhere. Yeah. All right. So, any questions until now? We'll go into the science part of it. These were the facts. These were the myths and the facts.
Dilip is asking it should be chai, but I don't understand his question. Dilip, please elaborate more. Kasab is chai?
Sorry?
Kasab, he's written kasab is chai. Kawa, sorry. Kawa is chai or kawa is tea?
Kawa is tea. Kawa is tea.
So herbal tea, can you explain one more time what is the difference between herbal tea and tea?
Yes, I will show you it in the next couple of slides. That will be easier for you to understand.
And Shilpa is asking, is the term chai tea correct?
Chai tea.
Yeah. The term that we use, chai tea.
In South India, particularly in Chennai, they called it uppu salt. Uppu, it means salt, but they call it uppu salt. It has got no meaning. Chai tea is like that. So no, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, it's the first time I'm hearing it. Chai tea. Any other questions?
No, I think these are the ones. So Sudeshna says, thank you for clearing the concepts of the myths and the facts.
Pleasure. There's so many other myths, but these are some of the best ones. All right. Go to the next one. So this is the book I was telling you, Passport to Heaven, Tea as Soma. This is written by Frederick R. Danaway. This book is available. Here is where he gives his argument why tea is the ancient somras. So let us understand some basics. So these basics are what I'm calling the science part of the tea. So what is tea? First, let us understand what is tea, because I said a lot of things about tea, herbal tea, chai, etc., etc. Then there are flavored teas. Then there are blends. So there are a lot of things that can happen. So what is a tea? So tea is this plant. If you see, this is a plant. It is called Camellia sinensis. Sinensis, sine is a word which is associated with China. So this is the plant that grows in China, and this plant, if you make a tea out of this plant, it is called a tea. And we have a similar tea in India, which grows in Assam, and we call it Camellia sinensis assamica, or we call it Camellia assamica. So anywhere in the world, wherever they are growing tea, whether it is India, China, Japan, Africa, Sri Lanka, they are either growing a Camellia sinensis or a Camellia assamica. So there are only two kinds of teas, tea plant. And whenever you are making a tea out of these leaves, when they are dried and processed, you are making a tea. That is a tea. That is a tea. Anything else can be categorized into something else, which I will tell you what. So in India, the first three leaves, you can see this leaf, and this is called the unopened leaf, which is all the bud. These three leaves are plucked. They actually break it from here and take it. So these three leaves, they are plucked, and they make tea out of these three leaves. And they also make some very, very, very exquisite and special tea only with this bud. And when you make a tea only with this bud, it is very expensive tea. And we also have in India some of those very exquisite and expensive tea, which is made only with this bud. So this is what is a tea is. When you are brewing, making a tea and brewing it with Camellia sinensis, then you have the tea. And herbal tea is tisane is anything but tea leaf, anything but Camellia sinensis. It could be any plant, and the leaves, fruits, bark, roots, flowers, anything which is edible but non-tea plant. That is a herbal tea or tisane. So, for example, as I said, chamomile is a flower, jasmine is a flower, rooibos is a shrub, pea flower, butterfly pea flower is a flower, ginger is a root. So all these things are, if you are brewing it, it becomes a herbal tea. So in herbal tea, there are no tea leaves. Let me tell you again, in herbal tea, there are no tea leaves. Now, if you put in India, in fact, there's a very interesting thing. In India, we have been drinking herbal tea for thousands of years. The first recorded or the first mention of a herbal tea comes from Ramayana. The Sanjivani booty that was given to Lakshman when he was wounded, in the battle with Ravana, is the first instant of a herbal tea from India. But it doesn't have a tea leaf. Now, what happens if you put tea leaf and a flower? So, for example, you put green tea and jasmine. That's a very favorite and famous tea, right? So, what do you call them? We call them flavored teas. So, you have a tea leaf and you put a flower or a root or a branch or a leaf, another thing. So you put a herb and you put a tea leaf, it becomes a flavored tea. So you have black tea with rose petals, it's a flavored tea. Green tea with jasmine, it's a flavored tea. White tea with lavender, it's a flavored tea. So these are all flavored teas. Now what happens when you put two kinds of tea leaves together? So you put Assam tea and Darjeeling tea together. What happens? They are called blends. So like this, you can make hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of teas. Okay, so these are the four different distinctions that you need to know. One is a tea, the herbal tea, the flavored teas, and the blends. Any questions? Clear?
Vandana is just asking hibiscus, so that's just another flower tea.
Yes, that's a tisane. This is a herbal tea. Hibiscus is a flower, so it is a herbal tea. Any other question?
Well, that's it, I think, right now.
Okay. So this is important to know because these are some of the, if you see the first few, China, India, Sri Lanka, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, these are some of the very famous and very well respected places where tea is grown. Somebody was mentioning about Turkey. Turkey does make tea, but they are much lower in terms of consumption or in terms of anything. In fact, the highest per capita consumption of tea comes from Ireland and not from China, India, or Turkey. So these are the places. Also, the price of the tea depends on the origin. So if you are buying, say, a Vietnam tea, and there is a Chinese tea next to it. So of course the Chinese tea would be more expensive than a Vietnam tea. So the origin is very important when we are understanding what is a fine tea. So the first step in understanding a fine tea is where it is coming from, which country.
So it's important to know where it was grown.
Yes, the origin is very important. So the tea terminology here is origin. What is the origin of this tea? So the origin will mean the country where the tea is produced and manufactured. Now these are the areas where in India tea is made. I can go down a bit. So here you have all these places, but the most famous ones are this. These are the most famous ones, and these are GI registered. Now, if you do not know what is GI registered, GI means geographic indication. Like for example, champagne. Now, champagne is a sparkling wine that comes from the Champagne region of France. Now, if the same grape is made into wine in, say, Florence, it will not be called champagne. So Champagne is the region. It's a geography. So it is a GI registered. Champagne is GI registered. Accordingly, we have these 5 GI registered tea growing regions. So only this region, the tea coming from these regions can be called Darjeeling, Assam, Nilgiris, Munnar, and Kangra. And let us also keep it in mind that there is, for example, in Darjeeling, there is an altitude also attached to that. So if somebody is growing a tea which is the foothill to the Darjeeling, is not a Darjeeling tea. It could be a Terai tea, it could be a Duars tea, it could be anything, but it's not a Darjeeling tea. So for Darjeeling tea, there is a certain minimum elevation from 3,500 feet to 7,000 feet is what you get a Darjeeling tea. So if you are buying an authentic Darjeeling tea, they will have this logo on the box. Similarly, this is Assam, this is Nilgiri, this is Munnar, and this is Kangra. Kangra is in Himachal. Most of you are from North India, I believe, so you understand what is Kangra. Munnar is in Kerala and Nilgiri is in Tamil Nadu. In fact, Kunnur, which is right now in the news for the wrong reason. So Kunnur is the place where most of the tea grows in Nilgiris. And these are all GI registered. So there are some people in Sri Lanka where they say we produce Darjeeling tea and it is absolutely illegal. In fact, their factories can be shut down by the international bodies because they cannot produce Darjeeling tea in Sri Lanka. But I know people who sell Darjeeling tea by telling people that we produce Darjeeling tea in Sri Lanka, which is not possible, absolutely, but they do. Okay, so then there are 2 kinds of teas. One is the orthodox, very simply, is the whole leaf tea, and then there is a CTC. Now, Shukriti, you are mentioning about the Tata Gold. Tata Gold is a CTC, and the whole leaf tea are the orthodox tea or the whole leaf tea. Now, when we talk about fine tea, specialty tea, we only talk about the whole leaf tea, the orthodox tea, and we do not talk about CTC tea. The CTC tea is a mass market tea. It is not considered a specialty or a fine tea. In fact, other than India and Sri Lanka and perhaps Kenya, no other countries in the world makes or drinks CTC tea. Yes.
Vandana has a question. So the altitude affects the color of the leaves on the plants as well?
No, the altitude affects the flavor and the aroma of the tea.
Thank you for clarifying that. So, okay. But like in Britishers, we see that they're having tea bag tea in a lot of Europe. So isn't that also CTC tea?
Not all tea bags are CTC tea. Okay, there are different kinds of tea bags. There are tea bags which are made with CTC tea. A British will never drink a CTC tea. There are different grades of tea. The whole leaf tea, when it gets broken, the whole leaf tea in the technical term, it's called OP. OP is orange pico. Pico is a leaf. Pico is leaf in Mandarin. And when it is broken, it becomes broken orange pico. It will be written BOP in many boxes. And then there are fannings. Fannings are the twigs and the dust that comes out after manufacturing of whole leaf tea. So in the tea bags, these fannings and the dust goes. Okay, but somebody who is a tea connoisseur who loves tea would never drink a tea bag. Number one. Number two is that tea bag has been proved to be carcinogenic by a research by the Canadian Tea Association. They have found that most of the most popular, like the Tetleys and the Brook Bonds of the world, all their tea bags are carcinogenic. So people are abandoning tea bags, and they are as a replacement they are coming out with something called pyramid silk bag, which is you must have seen those triangle shaped silk bags where you can see what is inside. So seeing something inside is very important. In an opaque tea bag that is available at this time, which is sold for about 50 paisa or 1 rupee, you really do not know what is inside because it's opaque. You don't know what has been put inside. But when you have a pyramid silk bag, you actually can see what is inside. Now, the idea of a good tea, when you infuse a tea leaf, it grows, it expands, right? When you brew it, the tea leaf opens up and it expands. Now, when you put it in a tea bag, it will never open up. It will break. Therefore, a good tea can never be put into a tea bag. So if somebody is telling you that I'm selling a fantastic tea in a tea bag, then there is something wrong because that tea will never open up and grow. So you have to be careful about it. When we talk about fine tea, we do not talk about CTC. We only talk about whole leaf tea. And we talk about whole leaf means orange pekoe. That means it's not broken. It is unbroken leaves. Now, in that whole leaf, we have 4 kinds of tea that we make in India: white, green, oolong, and black. Now, there is also understanding that these teas do not come from the same plant. Let me clarify. This comes from the same plant. It comes from the same pluck. It comes from the same leaves. The only difference is the process of making. White tea takes the least amount of time to make, therefore it has got the highest antioxidants. And black tea is the most oxidized. It takes the maximum amount of time to be manufactured, and therefore it has the best aroma and flavor. More oxidized, better aroma and flavor. Less oxidized, more antioxidant. So in between lies green and oolong. Now, let me also clarify here that each of these tea have their own health benefits. Each one of them are full of good health benefits. You know about green tea. I don't have to tell you that you must have now know all the goodness of the green tea. Let me tell you the goodness of the black tea. There's a research which is done by the Harvard Medical School, and they say if you drink the black tea 5 times a day, when I say black tea, which is not cooked but brewed in the right way, if you drink 5 cups of black tea every day, your immunity goes up. And that is one of the reasons that post-COVID, a lot of people have started drinking black tea. And in fact, in India, the per capita consumption has gone up post-COVID. So white tea is also, because it has got the highest antioxidant, it's again absolutely fantastic for your health. So what I'm trying to say is that each one of them has their own health benefits. Each one of these tea are actually functional teas. Functional tea means something which affects your health positively. Questions?
I think Amita is asking, what's a tea taster?
Tea taster?
Hmm.
A tea taster is a person who tests tea at the factory to check the quality of the tea produced on that particular day.
Is it vital to have a tea taster? Because you see them in a lot of the news videos,
Of course.
like wine tasters, so they kind of say, okay, this is the quality of the tea.
Yes. Every factory will have a tea taster. In fact, after a certain point of time, when you go to any tea factory, they have a laboratory, right? So at the end of the day, when whatever they have produced, they will sample it out and taste it. So there will be a quality, there will be a tasting guy, there will be a quality guy, there will be GM manufacturing. Everybody will be standing there and testing it and find out, and then they will decide that what would be the grade, what would be the price and stuff like that. So absolutely, tea tasting is a very vital part of tea manufacturing.
And so, any link for chemistry of tea, chemical compositions, and how do you pronounce Puerh? And what is it?
Okay. That is pronounced as pua, pua, pua. Pua is a tea that is only available in China, and this is a tea which is the only tea. Every other tea, white, green, oolong, black tea, these are the tea that has a shelf life of about 18 months if you store it correctly. The difference with Pua is that the Pua tea becomes more expensive as it ages, just like a wine. And Pua is not a leaf. Pua is like a brick. As the picture shows, it is like a brick. So people break it and then they brew it. And in fact, some of the Pua are so expensive, like there's an expensive Pua which is about 25 years old. That costs about $2 to $3 million for a brick like this. So they are
Wow.
very expensive teas. Yeah. In fact, some of the white teas also are very expensive. Like I told you, right? There's a tea that you make only with the unopened bud. So there are some tea that there are some white tea that is made with the unopened bud, which is called the silver needle tea. The silver needle tea in India itself would cost you something around 30,000 to 40,000 rupees for a kilo, which will be sold in the market for say about 25 grams would be sold for about 1200 rupees or 1500 rupees. So they are damn expensive. The teas are very expensive.
Now, where does this brick come from? So, how is this tea made? I think everybody's curious. And what's the difference between green tea and oolong tea?
The green tea and oolong tea, all the difference here is the process of manufacturing. How you make the tea, that decides whether it becomes a green tea or a oolong tea or a black tea or a white tea. These are all process of manufacturing that makes the differences. So as I said, white tea has only 2 or 3 processes. Black tea has got about 8 processes. Green tea has about 4 to 6 processes. Oolong tea has got 4 to 6 processes, but 2 processes are repeated twice. So that's what it makes it a oolong tea. It's a very complicated tea, oolong tea. If you're not doing it correctly, it can either become a green tea or it can become a black tea. So oolong is a very difficult to make. And
so,
pua, yes.
how do you make, what is this brick made? How is it made?
That is tea leaf. That is tea leaf. They are stacked together. They're stacked together. The tea leaves are stacked together and kept in the dark. In Hong Kong and places like that, there are huge storehouses where they put these tea leaves stuck together in boxes, and that's how they become bricks.
And what is matcha tea?
Matcha tea is a green tea that comes from Japan. The difference between normal green tea and matcha tea is that matcha tea is the tea leaves are grown under a shade. Now, if you go to any tea estate, you will see that there is no shade. They are all in the mountains or anywhere, right? They're not shades. So matcha tea is prepared. The teas are grown under a shade, and then after it is plucked, it is taken into a dark room, absolutely pitch dark room, and then it is hand rolled in a brick mortar, in a stone mortar,
Okay.
to make it into a powder. Matcha is a powder full of antioxidant, very good for your skin, very good for your hair, very good for your health. In Okinawa, Japan, people live, average age of people in Okinawa is 100 years. They all drink matcha. Now you know why
Matcha
tea is
tea in India? Is matcha tea
sorry?
made in India? Can you
No,
get
no, no. No. You only get it in Japan. You cannot make matcha tea in India. I mean, there is nobody is making it because it's a very complicated process, and we don't have the facility of having tea plant under sheds. So it has to start from there.
Are there any chemicals that are used for this puha or matcha
No,
tea?
absolutely no. Let me tell you the story of Pua. You will understand it. So there's a Silk Route, about, right? The Chinese Silk Route, which comes to India and Persia and stuff like that. Ancient time, there was a tea route also. So the Silk Route went towards the west, the tea route went towards the east. Now, what they used to do, China used to do a lot of trade with Tibet, and they would stack their tea in boxes and put it on donkeys, and the donkeys will come down from Yunnan, cross the whole valley, cross the Himalayas, and come to Tibet. It would take about 4 to 5 months to do that. And Tibet was the biggest trading center those days. And the place from where in China the tea would be shipped in those donkeys the place is called Pua. The place is called Pua. Now, by the time that tea in that boxes will come all the way from Pua to Tibet after 5 months, all those tea leaves will get stuck together and would look like bricks. So people will start breaking that and drink after infusing it. So Pua happened by accident. Nobody thought about creating a Pua. It happened by accident, but it became so good. People liked it so good. Now people are making it the same way. So there's no chemical. Tea does not have any chemical.
Now, you said something very interesting, that tea has to be stored properly and it can be kept for up to 18 months. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so 18 months in a tight jar without any sunlight, etc. That is a shelf life. And after that, you cannot really drink it. And if you're like, for example, another thing is that a lot of people put their tea in the kitchen next to the spices. Now, if you are drinking a good tea, like for example, you have bought a tea which cost quite a lot of money, and it has its own aroma. Say, for example, a Darjeeling second flush muscatel I was telling you about. You cannot put it next to your haldi or your cumins and stuff like that, because tea has the tendency to capture all the aroma coming from around it. So if you want a good the correct aroma, correct flavor, correct taste, keep the tea away from all the spices, somewhere where there is not much of a sunlight, in a tin box or a glass jar or a wooden this thing, but never in a plastic. Plastic will destroy your tea in 3 months, and store it nicely like that.
Can you mention some good tea for kids, teenager? My son loves tea. That is the typical chai. And what is the typical lifetime of CTC and Orthodox?
Orthodox is all this tea, white, green, oolong, black. These are Orthodox. I said 18 months.
So do they have a date on the package that you should be looking at and saying, okay?
Of course, manufacturing date all the time.
So you should be looking at.
I will tell you also. See, I will come to all these questions will be answered. Just give me a couple more minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not required. Now, here, and this is an important information for you. Understanding fine and specialty tea. As I said, it has to be orthodox or whole leaf tea. CTC tea is not considered fine or specialty tea. Then the origin of tea, as I showed you the origin of tea, it could be China, it could be India, Sri Lanka. So also again, the specialty tea depends on that. Now in origin of tea also, say for example, let us take India. In India, there are so many places we are growing tea. I showed you, right? But there also a hierarchy in terms of specialty, fineness, and the price, premiumness. So if a tea comes from in India, if it comes from Darjeeling, that tea will be much more expensive than say an Assam tea or a Nilgiri tea. An Assam tea will be more expensive than say a Kangra tea or a Nilgiri tea. So again, there are hierarchies. In the origin of tea also, it is very important. So to understand where the tea is coming from, number one. Number two is that estate of the garden, particularly in good tea, like in orthodox tea, the garden, the estate is very important. So if you have to buy a good tea, a good Darjeeling tea, there are 87 gardens in Darjeeling, and some of the best Darjeeling teas are known by their estates. So Mokai Bari is one of the most well-known tea in the world. Mokai Bari tea sells for almost 3.2 lakhs rupees per kg. Mokai Bari, then there is Castleton, then there's Margaret's Day, then there's Tharbo, then there is Happy Valley. So there are all these kinds of estates that are available there. So these estates are very important. Just give me 1 minute. It's raining. I need to do something. Hey, bhai. Hey, bhai. Bhai, bishti korche, jama kapad pore diye. Hello? Yeah. So, and then again, as I told you, whether it's a single or a blend, a single estate tea will be more expensive than a blend. So if you see a tea which has got, like, for example, English breakfast, it's a blend. It's a blend of Assam tea, Ceylon tea, and Nilgiris tea. So a blend would be much cheaper than a single estate. Then the flush. Flush is the time of the year the tea is manufactured. So Darjeeling, there are 4 flush: spring, summer, monsoon, and autumn. In Assam, there are 2 flush. In other parts of the world, the tea is grown throughout the year. So the flush is also very important. Okay, and the leaf size. So as I said, whole leaf tea are only considered good tea. The other ones are, if it is broken, it is not considered specialty tea. Questions?
I think we're fine here. And what is the grades then? Is there like a labeling or a grade that comes for each of the teas?
Great.
Leaf sizes grades.
This is the leaf size grade. OP, I said orange pico. Then there is flowery orange pico is the tea bud. So these are the grades that are used globally in India. This is not required. This is very technical, and that's why I didn't go into that. The moment it becomes broken leaf, it is no more a specialty tea. The specialty tea is only here, whole leaf. I'm not getting into that. That is too much of an information for this session. That is for my, when I do my training programs for students, that's for them. So okay as of now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the science part of it. We are completing the science part of it. Little bit of science left, which is the brewing and the steeping. And so this is the temperature. The temperature is very important. White, green, oolong, and black. And this is at steeping time. So difference between brewing and steeping is that brewing is the entire process from boiling water to serving tea is brewing. Steeping is the time of infusion. So if you see that there is no 100-degree here, everything is less than 100-degree. This is very important. And the other most important thing is that you do not put tea leaves in hot water. Repeat, you do not put tea leaves in hot water. You put hot water into tea leaves.
So meaning you put the leaves and then you pour the water?
You put the leaf in the kettle or wherever you are making the tea, and on that tea leaf you pour the water. This is very, 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 very important, because when you put the leaf into the water, the chemistry inside the leaves breaks down, and it does not gives you the correct spread of aroma and flavor. And when you are slowly pouring the water into the leaves, it helps the tea leaves to expand, to open, and slowly everything comes out. The flavors and aroma and everything comes out.
So usually you see people use something in which they put the leaves, and in that they put that in the kettle and then they put the water. Is that a good way to steep?
Yes. So if you see the old process when I was growing up, even in my house in Calcutta, there will be a kettle, there will be a tea kettle, and then there will be a hot water, and then there will be milk and a sugar. So is a whole set of tea set that is to come. So people will first put the amount of tea leaves required into the kettle. So if there are 4 people, we will put 2 tablespoons of tea, and then on that they will pour the hot water. That's the way to make it. If you're making at home quickly, like I do, Then you have, wherever I use a saucepan, or I have a teacup which infuses itself, or you can put it in wherever. So first put the tea leaf, and then on that you put the hot water.
And sometimes Ranjani is asking that green tea becomes bitter. Is it because it has been overboiled?
No, because you are buying very bad tea. No tea can be bitter, particularly green tea. If your tea is becoming bitter, throw that tea. It's absolutely bullshit you are buying and paying your money for. No tea, it is a myth again in India that some very bad tea companies have started, that if your green tea is not bitter, it is not good. It's complete bullshit. No tea can be bad. If it is bad, then your tea, either the tea is bad or something has happened before it has reached you. Now, if you have a good tea, like for example, a good green tea will come from a high elevation. A good green tea or a good white tea will come from a high elevation, from the Himalayas or the Nilgiris and stuff like that. Not from Coimbatore, not from Gujarat, and not from places like that. So please make sure that you know where the tea is coming from, the origin. Make sure. And if you know the origin, and if you follow this water temperature and the infusion, that is steeping process, your tea will never be bitter.
So, Sudeshna is asking, please tell again the difference between brewing and steeping. And for the temperature, how do you check? Do you actually just kind of wing it, or do you actually say, okay, you know what, let me check what the temperature of the water is?
No. See, when this is for temperature is an indication. Okay, I am not expecting you to put the thermometer every time you brew tea and check it. That is not possible. It's not practically possible. What I'm saying is that uh, you will know, right? You have a mobile phone in front of you, or you have something like you understand how it is 2 minutes. Like when you put in water, for another important thing, never boil your water in microwave if you're making tea. Because when you put water in microwave, all the oxygen is sucked out of the water. That tea is tasteless. That water is tasteless. So if you put tea leaves in that, you're wasting your tea and wasting your water. Never boil your water in microwave. Going back to that, it is an approximation. You know, by using it, after a while you will understand 2 minutes chahiye ki 3 minutes chahiye. And steeping is a part of the brewing process. There's no difference. Steeping is the part of the brewing process, and brewing is the entire process, starting from boiling the water to serving the tea. And steeping is in between. There is a process, the time of infusion. That is the steeping time.
So even if you're doing black tea, after you boil the water, you have to allow it to cool down a little bit to get it to
Yes.
97 to 98 degrees before
Yes.
you actually steep for
Correct.
the.
Correct. Absolutely. Just let the lid out. Take out the lid. Let the boiling settle down. Give it 30 seconds. It will come down. Any other questions?
You have quite a few to go, but they want to also know the good tea for teenagers, Lipton green tea bags. How are they, Lata is asking.
Do not use any tea bags. I just told you that tea bags are carcinogenic. And I just told you a good whole leaf tea needs to open up. It opens up. You cannot put a green tea inside a tea bag. Do not use you are giving poison to your son if you are using Lipton tea bag. And I also mentioned right now that if you have to drink a good green tea, it has to come from high altitude regions. So buy a green tea from the Himalayan region, from Sikkim, from Kangra, loose leaf, brew it. In a tea bag, a leaf does not open. And I'm requesting you today, right now, after this session, go and cut your tea bag with a scissor and see what is inside. I guarantee there is no tea leaf there. And you do not know what is that, because it does not look like tea leaves.
Oof.
Anybody who drinks tea bags, any kind of tea bag, I'm asking you this to go back after this, cut it with a scissor, pour the entire content into a plate, white plate, and see what is inside. You will not drink tea after that. those kind of teas after that.
So, Susmita, we are running out of time. So let's quickly do the art.
Yes, so let's go to the art. So the art is where you do the appreciation, aroma and flavor. You know, aroma is what you smell and flavor is what you taste. And we use our taste buds for tasting this. So this is a very elaborate process. When I do my tea appreciation, this is where we actually do this, practice this, taste this to understand how this happens. But very quickly, we use our taste buds and we also use our 5 senses. That is the ear, nose, tongue, everything that we have, skin, everything. So 5 senses and 5 taste buds is what we use. And this is the flavor wheel that we use to identify, after going to the 5 senses and 5 taste buds, the aroma and flavor. We use this flavor wheel to identify the various flavors that have come out of the tea. And that is the art part of it. This is the entire subject by itself. This is called the tea appreciation. The difference between tea appreciation and tea tasting is that tea tasting happens at the factory, and at tea tasting, they taste the quality of the tea. In tea appreciation, we appreciate the tea and we understand the flavor and the aroma profile of the tea through our 5 senses and 5 taste buds.
Almost like wine, it's very, very specific in terms of the taste.
It is not almost like wine, it is exactly like wine. But more complicated than wine, because wine is only one grape, one region. Here you have one region with several seasons, several flushes, several types. So it is much more complicated than wine.
And Manjari is asking, how about organic cotton tea bags?
As I said, if your tea does not open up, you don't drink it. There's nothing called organic cotton. Why are we being so lazy that we cannot brew a cup of tea and need to use a tea bag? If you really have to use a tea bag, buy those stainless steel infusers that is available in you can buy from Amazon. Put your tea leaves inside that and drip it into the water. Those are much better than using any cloth, any material. Tea is something to be enjoyed. Tea is something to be appreciated. Tea is a very deep, very, very deep subject. It's not something that you should take it seriously, because tea really helps in relieving your stress. It helps in elevating your mood. It helps you to sleep. It helps you to stay awake. It is an extremely interesting beverage. No other beverage actually has so much of depth, for it.
Smita, you also said you'll tell us about teas that are good for children, for kids.
Yes. So for kids, you can have all the teas when it is brewed or steeped properly. All these are good for your children: white, green, oolong, and black. Buy it from me. I can give you all the tea, or you buy directly from the garden. Okay. Buy directly from the garden. The Brook Bonds of the world do not sell this kind of tea. The Brook Bonds and the Tatas do not sell specialty tea. They sell only the CTC tea. CTC tea does not have any goodness inside the tea, because the process of CTC tea extracts all the goodness out of the tea. So there is nothing left in the CTC that you have. So if you're looking from the health perspective, you only have to use orthodox whole leaf teas. Either you buy directly from the estate, or you can tell me, because I work with almost all major tea estates in the country, and I get their freshest tea, and I can give it to you as well at the same price as what they are selling.
So I know we've had lots of questions. Any closing thoughts? Because I think we've already gone over. So any last words? I know you've already told us that we need to get fresh. We need to think about the region it's coming from. It has to be whole leaf.
Yes, I think, For some reason in India, we are not taking tea very seriously. We think tea is either we think tea is something which is cheap. In fact, tea is even more expensive than a bottle of champagne. Some of the teas that we produce, like Darjeeling tea, is called the champagne of tea. So my request to all of you is that, pay a little more respect to what we are producing in India. Be proud of the tea that we are producing in India. Be like the French, the way they love their wine and they respect their wine. We are producing as beautiful and as wonderful teas like the French are producing wines. Then the French will not drink any other wine than their own, and they're so proud of it. So let's be proud of what we are producing, and let's drink our good tea and look after our health and promote it everywhere. I feel sad.
One
Yes.
last question before I let you go, because you've said that, because right now there is an obsession with Chinese tea. So what is the difference between China tea and India tea? Because a lot of people, now it's coming up in the thing that, oh, this tea is from China.
Same thing, just made in China.
So this should be Swadeshi. Buy Indian, drink Indian.
First of all, Chinese teas are not available in India. The government has put some legislations to stop Chinese, Nepalese, and Sri Lankan tea to enter India. Okay, so you really cannot have Chinese tea available in India. You can buy some good Chinese tea if you go to Malaysia, Singapore, and places like that. Of course, you can buy it from China, but these are the places you get some good tea. But we have as good tea as some of the, not all Chinese tea are good, like not all Indian teas are good, but we have some of the best teas in the world which are comparable or much better. Let me tell you that all the royal families of this world, whether it is British, Swedish, Dutch, Saudi Arabia, Japan, all drink only Indian tea. They do not drink Chinese tea. They only drink Indian tea. And if you look into the breakfast menu at the Buckingham Palace, the tea that they drink every day is called the English breakfast tea. And the English breakfast tea, 60% of the tea is an Assamese tea, 10% comes from Ceylon, and the remaining comes from Nilgiris. So again, they are only drinking Indian tea. So they do not drink Japanese tea or Chinese tea. China has a huge population of their own to drink their own tea. But in Europe, you go in Australia, you go to Canada and places like that, only Indian tea.
A lot of people want to know how they can contact you. Do you want to share your email or Twitter or LinkedIn? What's the best way to reach you?
This is my number I have given. You can WhatsApp me, or this is my Instagram is at tea with Sush. You can contact me here.
Smita, one more question. Sorry, I know I keep asking you. I'm saying last one, last one. So we want to know, what is this tea that's costing 2 lakhs that Mrs. Ambani drinks?
I'll give you a tea which costs 3.25 lakhs from India. You want to drink that? Forget about Mrs. Ambani.
No, but what is the one that she drinks?
That's a green tea from Japan.
From
It's a
Japan.
green tea. Yeah.
So why is she going to Japan to get this green tea if we've got the best tea?
She can afford it. That's why why would anybody do anything? She's the richest person in the country, right?
Because
She can do whatever she wants.
Because it's such an expensive tea, is Japanese tea better? Is that why she is sourcing it?
No. See, no, nothing like that. As I said, it all depends on where the tea comes from. The same green tea is, if you see a green tea in Assam and a green tea in Darjeeling, also the quality is different. You will not get the correct kind of quality or correct kind of taste. That's why I'm telling you continuously. I'm telling you, if you want to drink green tea or white tea, always buy high altitude tea. Black tea is okay to buy from Assam, from anywhere else, because it doesn't really matter with the altitude. Black tea, the entire thing matters because of the way it is being processed. So even in India, there are quality and differences.
And Vandana rightly said our platform is sipping thoughts. So, yeah, absolutely. We love
Yes,
sipping tea and we love. So, thank you, Susmita, very much for sharing all this knowledge with us. I think we've been inspired by, rethinking what tea we should drink.
absolutely. If you need any help, a push, nudge, call me, ping me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good
you. Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.